Ewatomi Adeyemi did not attend events to be noticed. She attended to conquer. The charity gala was held on the top floor of a glass-walled skyscraper overlooking Lagos, the city glittering beneath like scattered diamonds. Politicians laughed too loudly. CEOs performed charm like it was currency. Champagne flowed in rivers of gold. Ewatomi moved through it all like silk in motion. Her emerald gown clung to her curves in a way that wasn't desperate, it was intentional. The fabric caught the light every time she turned, the slit revealing just enough leg to make heads turn twice. Her skin glowed against the jewel tone. Her hair cascaded down her back in soft waves. She wasn't trying to seduce anyone. But confidence is a dangerous perfume. And she wore it effortlessly. Across the room, power shifted. Conversations lowered. Laughter tightened. Men in dark suits subtly repositioned themselves. Because he had arrived. Minseok did not need introduction. He entered without theatrics, but the air changed around him. Tall. Impeccably dressed in a black suit that looked molded to his body. A face carved from restraint and discipline. Eyes that did not wonder, they assessed. He was not there for charity. He was there for influence. An influence bent when he walked. Ewatomi didn't know who he was. She only felt the room shift. She turned slightly, curious, just as a waiter brushed past her elbow. The champagne glass tilted. Time slowed. The golden liquid arced through the air. And landed directly on Minseok's chest. Gasps rippled through the room like shockwaves. The music faltered for half a beat. Two of his men took a step forward. Ewatomi froze. Her brain screamed, run. Instead, she did the unthinkable. She stepped closer. Oh my God, she breathed, genuinely horrified. I am so sorry. He did not move. Not when the liquid soaked into his tailored suit. Not when every eye in the ballroom locked onto them. Not when she reached forward. Her fingers pressed against his chest. Warm. Solid. Real. She grabbed a linen napkin and dabbed gently, focused, unaware of the electricity she was igniting. Her touch wasn't seductive. It was natural. Unfiltered. And that was the problem. No woman touched Minseok without permission. No one touched him without calculation. But she wasn't calculating. She was biting her lower lip in concentration, brows furrowed slightly as she murmured, "This fabric looks expensive. I'm so embarrassed." His gaze lowered to her face. Then to her lips. Then to the hand resting over his heartbeat. His pulse, which rarely betrayed him, shifted. It had been years since something surprised him. She smelled like jasmine and something warmer, something addictive. Her skin glowed under the chandelier light. And she wasn't afraid. That unsettled him more than the champagne. One of his men leaned in slightly. "Sir." Minseok lifted one finger. Silence. The entire ballroom seemed suspended between breaths. Finally, he spoke. His voice was deep. Smooth. Controlled. "You are forgiven." Ewatomi looked up fully then. Their eyes locked. For the first time, she saw the intensity there. Not anger. Assessment. Curiosity. Ownership waiting to happen. A strange flutter ignited low in her stomach. She stepped back slowly. "Well, thank you for not having me escorted out," she joked lightly. A few nervous laughs echoed nearby. He didn't laugh. But the faintest shift, almost imperceptible, softened his gaze. "You would not be escorted anywhere," he replied. The statement carried weight. She tilted her head slightly. "Good. Because I still haven't had dinner." Bold. Unaware that several billion naira and multiple criminal empires stood in front of her. She gave him one last apologetic smile. Warm, genuine, unafraid. And then she walked away. The slit of her dress revealed smooth skin with every step. Her hips moved without effort. Not exaggerated. Just natural rhythm. Minseok watched. He did not blink. Around him, whispers began. "Does she know who you are?" one associate asked quietly. His jaw tightened slightly. No. There was something almost sacred about that fact. She didn't know his reputation. Didn't know the power. Didn't know men disappeared for less. She only saw a man with champagne on his suit. And touched him. Without hesitation. Without fear. Without agenda. That was new. And new things interested him. Across the room, Ewatomi felt the weight of his stare like a hand between her shoulder blades. She turned, just once. Their eyes met again. This time, slower. Charged. Something unspoken passed between them. A challenge. A spark. A beginning neither of them had planned. She turned back to her conversation. But Han Minseok did not look away. Not once. And that was the exact moment the most dangerous man in the city became obsessed with a woman who never meant to seduce him. Han Minseok did not lose focus. He built empires because he never allowed distraction to breathe. But that night, distraction wore emerald silk and bit her lip while apologizing. He stood in his penthouse office overlooking the city skyline, hands clasped behind his back. The glass walls reflected a man carved from discipline. And yet, he was thinking about her fingers on his chest. The way she stepped closer instead of away. The warmth of her palm pressing against his heartbeat like she belonged there. He hadn't felt surprise in years. Power had made everything predictable. Fear predictable. Loyalty predictable. Betrayal predictable. But Ewatomi Adeyemi? Unpredictable. That unsettled him. A soft knock broke the silence. Enter. His right-hand man stepped inside cautiously. You left the gala early, sir. I was finished. A pause. The woman, his associate added carefully. Minseok's jaw tightened slightly. She is irrelevant. But he didn't sound convinced. Within 24 hours, a file sat on his desk. Ewatomi Adeyemi. Age, 28. Occupation, marketing strategist. No criminal affiliations. Lives alone. No wealthy lover. No political ties. Clean. Ordinary. Which made her even more dangerous. He flipped through surveillance photos taken outside her apartment building. Morning coffee run. Late-night grocery stop. Laughing with a friend. Hair wrapped in silk. She looked softer outside the gala. Real. He didn't like that his chest tightened when he saw her smile. She embarrassed you publicly, his associate reminded him. Minseok's eyes lifted slowly. No. His voice was calm. Steady. She touched me publicly. The difference mattered. Most women approached him with calculation, eyes measuring what his name could buy. But Ewatomi? She had no idea who he was. No fear. No performance. That kind of innocence around power was rare. And rare things were either protected or possessed. He closed the file. I want eyes on her. The order was simple. Non-negotiable. That evening, he sat alone in his private club. Dim lights, expensive silence, men who would kill at a glance. Music hummed low in the background. But his mind replayed the gala. The exact moment her eyes met his. There had been curiosity there. And something else. Defiance. He had seen it. When she joked about not being escorted out. When she stood tall instead of shrinking. She wasn't reckless. She was unaware. And that was intoxicating. He imagined what would happen when she did become aware. Would she still look at him the same way? Would her touch hesitate? The thought irritated him. He did not want hesitation. He wanted that fearless hand against his chest again. He poured himself a drink. Didn't taste it. Across the city, Ewatomi lay in bed scrolling through her phone. She paused. Why was she thinking about him? She didn't even know his name. Just his face. That stare. Cold, but not empty. She remembered the scar near his collarbone when the champagne soaked through. The way the room went silent around him. Power. That was what she felt. Not arrogance. Power. And somehow, instead of intimidating her, it intrigued her. She shook her head and laughed softly. Girl, focus, she muttered to herself. But sleep didn't come easily. Back in his penthouse, Minseok stood before the city lights again. He never chased. Women came when summoned. But this felt different. He didn't want to summon her. He wanted to see her reaction. Unfiltered. Unprepared. He wanted to knock on her door and watch her eyes widen. He wanted to test something. Was it attraction? Or was it instinct? His phone buzzed. Sir, she's home. He stared at the message. 3 words. And yet his pulse shifted. That irritated him more than anything. He was not a teenager. He was not impulsive. He was a strategist. And this required precision. He turned away from the window. Prepare the car. His associate hesitated. Tonight. Minseok's expression hardened. Yes. Rain began falling over Lagos. Thunder rolled low across the skyline. Black SUVs slid through traffic with quiet authority. Inside the backseat, Han Minseok adjusted his cuffs slowly. Calm. Controlled. But his mind replayed her smile again. He wasn't going to claim her. Not yet.
He wasn't going to threaten her. He didn't need to. He simply needed to confirm something. Was the spark real?
Or was it imagination? The car slowed near her apartment building.
He stared up at the lit window. Her window.
For a moment, something unfamiliar flickered in his chest. Anticipation. Dangerous.
Because Han Minseok did not anticipate. He decided. He stepped out of the car without an umbrella. Rain soaked his shoulders instantly. He didn't care.
For the first time in years, he was about to knock on a woman's door without knowing exactly what would happen next.
And that
was the most dangerous feeling of all. Rain blurred the city lights into streaks of silver and gold. Inside her apartment, Ewatomi moved barefoot across cool tile floors, humming softly as she dried her hair.
The night had been quiet, peaceful, until the doorbell rang.
Once.
Slow. Firm.
Not impatient. Her brows knit together. No one visited her unannounced.
Not at this hour.
The clock read 10:47 p.m.
Rain hammered against the windows. The bell rang again.
Her pulse quickened, not fear exactly, but awareness. She walked toward the door carefully, adjusting the oversized shirt she wore over satin shorts.
Her hair was wrapped loosely in silk. No makeup.
No performance.
Just her. She didn't check the mirror. She didn't need to.
When she opened the door,
the world narrowed. Han Minseok stood there like a storm-given human shape.
Rain soaked through his black shirt, clinging to his broad shoulders.
Droplets traced down his neck, disappearing beneath his collar.
His hair, usually immaculate, was slightly disheveled.
He looked less polished. More dangerous. And far too real. Her breath caught before she could stop it. "You," she whispered.
His eyes moved over her once.
Not rushed. Not hungry. Assessing. She was softer like this. Relaxed.
Barefaced. Vulnerable in a way the gala never showed. His voice was low, smooth despite the rain. "I believe you owe me a drink." The corner of her mouth lifted before she could stop it.
That's bold.
Showing up uninvited.
Silence.
Rain fell harder between them.
"May I come in?" he asked. It wasn't a demand. That unsettled her more than if it had been.
She hesitated, just long enough to prove she had a choice.
Then she stepped aside.
"Only because you're dripping on my hallway."
He entered slowly.
The air changed instantly.
He filled the space without trying. She closed the door. The sound echoed louder than it should have. The apartment suddenly felt smaller. Intimate. Too intimate. She walked toward the kitchen without looking back.
"Whiskey?" she asked, hoping her voice sounded steadier than she felt. "Yes." He remained standing near the entrance, scanning the space once, not suspiciously, just absorbing it.
Books stacked on the coffee table. A throw blanket folded neatly. Soft lighting. Warmth. It felt nothing like his world. She poured the drink carefully. Her hands were steady.
But she could feel his gaze like heat along her spine.
She handed him the glass. Their fingers brushed.
This time, it wasn't an accident. The contact was brief, but intentional.
He didn't drink.
Instead, he watched her.
"You are not nervous," he observed. She leaned against the counter casually.
"Should I be?" "Yes." The answer came without hesitation.
Not threatening. Just honest.
A strange thrill ran through her.
"Why?" He took a slow step forward. Then another. Each movement measured.
"You invited a stranger into your home."
Her chin lifted slightly. "You knocked."
"And that makes me safe."
Her pulse thudded harder now. "No," she admitted quietly.
Silence thickened between
You're soaked.
them.
Come inside.
He stopped a few
I had
feet
to see
away.
you.
Close
I'm
enough
so
to feel
worried.
his presence. Not close enough to touch.
"You don't know who I am,"
he said.
"I know enough." "Which is?" She held his gaze. "You're used to people moving when you walk.
Used to being obeyed.
Used to control."
His eyes darkened slightly.
"And you don't." "I don't respond well to control."
Something shifted in him at that. Not anger. Interest. He stepped closer. Now only inches separated them.
She could see the faint scar near his collarbone again beneath the damp fabric. Her fingers twitched at her sides.
He noticed.
"You touched me that night," he said quietly. "I was cleaning up my mistake."
"No." His voice dropped lower.
"You weren't afraid."
She swallowed.
"Should I have been?" "Yes."
The word came softer this time. Not as a warning.
As a confession. The air between them felt charged, like lightning waiting for permission. Her heart pounded so loud she was certain he could hear it.
But she refused to step back.
Instead, she tilted her head slightly. And what happens now?
A dangerous question. His gaze dropped to her lips briefly, then back to her eyes.
I decide. Her breath trembled, but she smiled.
No. One word. Defiant. He stilled.
You don't get to decide alone.
Silence. Heavy. Electric. For the first time in years, someone had challenged him without hostility. Without fear. Without calculation. Just truth. His jaw tightened slightly.
You are playing a dangerous game. Her voice softened, but did not waver. I didn't know we were playing.
A beat passed. Thunder cracked outside, and something inside him cracked with it. He lifted his hand slowly, paused just before touching her face, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His fingers brushed her jaw. Gentle. Almost reverent.
Her breath hitched.
You should be careful, he murmured. Why?
Because I do not stop once I begin.
Her stomach flipped, but instead of shrinking, she stepped closer, until her body nearly brushed his. Then don't begin unless you're ready, she whispered.
The challenge in her voice was soft, but undeniable.
His restraint tightened like a wire pulled too far. For a second, the world disappeared. There was no rain, no city, no power, just the space between their mouths. He leaned in slightly, not enough to kiss her, just enough to make her feel how easily he could. Her fingers curled lightly against his chest, over his heartbeat. It was faster now. She felt it, and that knowledge gave her quiet power. He exhaled slowly, then stepped back. Control reclaimed.
Good night, Ewatomi. The way he said her name.
Slow. Possessive. It sent heat down her spine. He turned and walked to the door. Opened it. Paused.
Without looking back, he said, "This will not be the last time I show up."
The door closed behind him.
Rain swallowed his silhouette. Inside the apartment, Ewatomi stood frozen. Her lips tingled though they'd never touched.
Her pulse raced though nothing had happened. And somehow, that made it worse. Because now she knew.
The gala wasn't an accident. The champagne wasn't the mistake.
Opening the door tonight was. And she wasn't sure she regretted it.
After that night,
silence followed. No calls. No messages. No dramatic gestures. And somehow, that was worse.
Ewatomi found herself hyper-aware of everything. The black SUV that passed her building twice one afternoon. The suited men standing a little too still near a cafe she frequented. The feeling of being watched, not hunted.
Observed. Protected. Possessed? She told herself she was imagining it.
But 3 nights later, she saw him again.
Not at her door.
Not in the rain. But at an exclusive rooftop lounge overlooking the city skyline. The kind of place where deals were whispered and secrets were purchased.
She hadn't known he owned it.
Until she walked in and every staff member subtly straightened.
And there he was.
Han Minseok sat in a private corner booth, city lights framing him like a throne of gold and shadow.
He didn't look surprised to see her.
Which irritated her.
She walked toward him deliberately. Every step measured.
You following me? She asked calmly as she stopped at his table. Or is this just coincidence?
His gaze lifted slowly. Dark. Focused.
Unreadable. I do not follow. Really? You walked into my building.
Her brows lifted.
Your building?
He gestured subtly around them. Realization dawned. Oh.
A faint, almost invisible smirk touched his lips. You seem disappointed.
She crossed her arms.
I don't like surprises. His eyes flicked to the subtle curve of her waist as she shifted her weight. You opened your door to one. Heat crept up her neck, but she held his gaze. And you left. Yes.
Why? Silence. That question mattered. He leaned back slightly, studying her. Because staying would have changed everything. Because touching her that night would have crossed a line he wasn't sure he could uncross. Because for the first time in years, he wanted something without destroying it. But he didn't say any of that. Instead,
I was testing you.
Her pulse skipped.
For what?
Fear. She exhaled softly. And?
You did not show it. She stepped closer to the table. Close enough that the scent of her perfume, warm vanilla layered with something darker, drifted toward him.
And if I had?
I would have walked away.
That answer surprised her. Why? Because I do not enjoy fear.
His voice was low, controlled, but there was truth in it.
She studied him more carefully now. He wasn't just power. He was restraint.
Danger held in a cage of discipline.
Then what do you enjoy? She asked softly. His eyes dropped briefly to her lips,
then back to her gaze. Control. Her stomach tightened. And if someone doesn't give it to you?
He leaned forward slowly, forearms resting on the table, voice lowering.
Then I take it. A dangerous silence settled between them. The music faded into background hum. The city lights flickered behind him like distant stars. She felt the gravity of him, pulling, but she refused to be swallowed. Instead of stepping back, she slid into the seat across from him. Uninvited. The move was subtle, but bold. His jaw tightened slightly. You are either very brave, he murmured, or very reckless.
She tilted her head.
Maybe I just don't scare easily. He studied her like a puzzle he intended to solve. You should.
She leaned forward now, mirroring him, closing the distance. Why?
His voice dropped to almost a whisper. Because I have not decided what to do with you. Her breath caught, just slightly, but she didn't retreat. And what are my options?
He held her gaze for a long moment.
Long enough that the air thickened again. I could ignore you.
She raised an eyebrow.
You won't.
A beat passed.
You're certain? Yes.
His lips curved faintly.
That confidence. That defiance.
It pressed against him in ways he wasn't used to.
And the other option, she pressed.
His eyes darkened.
I could make you mine.
The words weren't loud.
They didn't need to be. They settled between them like a spark near gasoline. Her heart slammed against her ribs.
Mine. Not possessive in the way of ownership. Possessive in the way of claim. She inhaled slowly.
And if I don't belong to anyone? His gaze softened, just barely. Everyone belongs to something.
She shook her head.
I don't.
His eyes flickered with something new. Challenge accepted. He stood. Slowly.
The movement forced her to tilt her head back slightly to maintain eye contact. He extended his hand. Dance with me.
She glanced around.
The rooftop had a small open space near the edge where soft music played.
I love you so much.
I don't see anyone else dancing.
I love you too.
I did not ask anyone else. Her pulse pounded again. She hesitated. Just long enough to prove she could. Then she placed her hand in his.
His fingers closed around hers. Warm. Firm. Certain. He led her toward the open space.
The city stretched below them, glittering, alive. His hand settled lightly at her waist.
Not gripping. Not claiming. But guiding. She placed her hand against his shoulder. The contact was electric. They moved slowly.
Not choreographed.
Just instinct.
Their bodies aligned closer than necessary.
Not touching fully, but aware.
Every shift of her hips brushed the air near him. Every breath she took seemed to echo in his chest. You are playing with something you don't understand, he murmured near her ear. Her voice was soft but steady. Then explain it. His hand tightened just slightly at her waist.
If I decide to pursue you, I do not stop halfway.
Heat flooded her system. And if I decide to walk away?
His eyes met hers. Sharp. Intent.
You won't. Confidence. Not arrogance.
Certainty. She swallowed.
You seem very sure of yourself. I am.
The music slowed. Their bodies drew closer.
Not accidental.
Not innocent.
His thumb brushed slightly against the curve of her waist.
Barely there. But deliberate.
Her breath trembled.
He felt it.
And that knowledge shifted something inside him. You react, he observed quietly.
She met his gaze head-on.
So do you.
A pause. Charged. His jaw flexed subtly. She wasn't wrong. And he wasn't used to being read so clearly. The song ended.
But neither of them stepped back immediately. The space between their lips was dangerous now. He could close it easily. She knew it. He knew it. But instead, he stepped back first. Control reasserted. You will go home now, he said calmly. Her brows knit slightly. That wasn't a question.
No.
A flicker of irritation sparked in her eyes. You don't give me orders. His expression softened, almost amused.
Not yet. And with that, he turned, walked away, leaving her standing beneath the city lights, breathing harder than she wanted to admit, because the truth was undeniable now.
This wasn't accidental anymore. The seduction had stopped being unintentional, and neither of them were innocent in it.
The first sign that something had shifted wasn't dramatic.
I love you too.
It was subtle.
A black SUV parked across from Ewatomi's building every evening.
Not always the same one, but always there. She noticed. Of course she noticed. And she told herself it didn't matter. Until the night it did. It was late.
The parking structure beneath her office building was quieter than usual. Fluorescent lights flickered faintly overhead. Her heels echoed sharply against the concrete as she walked toward her car.
She sensed it before she saw it.
Voices.
Male. Arguing.
Low and aggressive. Two men stood near the stairwell entrance, tension thick between them. One shoved the other. A metallic object clattered to the ground. Ewatomi slowed.
Her pulse quickened.
Wrong place. Wrong time. She turned slightly, intending to retreat toward the elevator. One of the men glanced in her direction.
Their eyes met. And something in his expression sharpened. She moved faster.
Her breath coming shorter now. The air felt heavier.
Then, headlights flooded the garage. Bright. Blinding. Engines roared.
3 black SUVs slid into the structure like shadows with teeth. Doors opened in synchronized motion.
Men stepped out. Suits.
Earpieces.
Cold efficiency. The argument stopped instantly.
One of the suited men spoke quietly to the two aggressors.
Firm. Controlled.
Whatever was said ended the situation.
Quickly. The men were escorted away. No chaos. No violence. Just silent dominance.
And then,
he stepped out of the last vehicle. Han Minseok. Dark coat. Black shirt.
Eyes unreadable.
He walked toward her slowly. Not rushed. Not panicked. Certain.
Her heart slammed against her ribs. You walk alone too often, he said calmly. No greeting.
No softness. Just statement.
Her fear dissolved into irritation. Are you following me? Yes. The bluntness stunned her. You can't just, she lowered her voice, glancing at his men. You don't get to monitor my life.
He stopped in front of her.
Close enough to feel the heat radiating from him. You were seconds away from being involved in something you should not see. I wasn't involved. You were present. And that gives you the right to what? Send security details after me.
His gaze sharpened slightly.
To ensure you are not touched. The word hung between them.
Touched.
She stepped closer despite herself. I don't belong to you. His eyes dropped briefly to her lips.
Not yet.
The words were quiet.
Possessive.
Dangerous.
Her stomach flipped. She should step back.
Instead, she held her ground. I didn't ask for protection.
He leaned in slightly. You do not ask for storms either.
They still come. Her breath trembled. That's not the same. It is, he replied smoothly. Because once I decide something matters, I protect it.
Something in his tone shifted on that last word. Not ownership. Value.
That unsettled her more than dominance ever could.
You decided I matter, she asked softly. His jaw tightened slightly.
You would prefer I didn't.
The question caught her off guard. Silence stretched. She didn't answer. Because she didn't know. He stepped closer now.
Close enough that the front of her blouse brushed faintly against his coat. I do not interfere without reason, he said quietly. You are my reason.
The confession wasn't dramatic. It was controlled. And that made it more powerful. Her pulse roared in her ears.
You barely know me. I know enough. Enough to what?
His voice lowered.
To remove anything that threatens you. The intensity in his eyes made her chest tighten.
This wasn't casual.
This wasn't flirtation. This was claim.
Not ownership of her body, but ownership of her safety. Her breath came slower now.
You can't just decide I'm yours to protect.
He studied her carefully. You opened your door to me. Her lips parted slightly.
That doesn't mean. It means, he interrupted gently, you trusted me.
The truth of it hit her. She had. Without thinking. Without asking questions. She trusted him. That realization shifted something inside her. I don't need a bodyguard, she whispered.
You don't have one.
A beat.
You have me. The weight of that statement pressed against her ribs. His hand lifted slowly, not grabbing, not demanding. Just hovering near her waist. Waiting. Giving her the choice.
She felt it.
The decision.
Step away. Or step closer. Her heart pounded. Slowly, she closed the distance. Her palm rested lightly against his chest. Right over his heartbeat. It was steady. Controlled. But faster than usual. She felt it. And her lips curved faintly. You're reacting, she murmured. His gaze darkened.
So are you. Her breath faltered. The world around them faded. The vehicles, the guards, the concrete walls.
It was just the space between them.
You can't protect me from everything, she said quietly. I can try. And if I don't want that kind of life.
He didn't hesitate.
Then I change it.
Her brows knit.
You'd change your world.
For you? A pause. Something cracked in his composure.
Yes. The admission stunned her.
This was a man who commanded empires. And yet, he was offering adjustment. For her. Not because she demanded it.
But because he chose it. Her fingers curled slightly in his shirt. You're dangerous, she whispered.
I know.
And stubborn. Yes.
She exhaled softly. And you're not leaving, are you? His answer was immediate. No. The word wasn't threatening. It was promise.
Rain began to fall outside the garage entrance again, soft at first, then heavier.
He glanced toward the sound briefly, then back at her. I will not cage you, he said quietly.
But I will stand between you and anything that tries to harm you.
Her heart softened. Against her better judgment.
And what happens if I'm the one who hurts you? She asked.
His expression shifted. For the first time. Vulnerable.
I will endure it.
The honesty in his voice stole her breath.
Silence settled again.
Charged. Intimate. Then he did something unexpected. He stepped back. Releasing the space. Releasing pressure.
You should go home, he said calmly.
She stared at him.
You're not coming.
His gaze lingered. Not yet. No.
A flicker of disappointment crossed her face before she could hide it.
He noticed. Of course he did.
Soon, he added quietly. The promise in that single word wrapped around her like heat.
She turned toward her car. But before she opened the door, she looked back. He was still watching her. Not like prey. Not like property.
Like something precious he intended to keep safe.
And that was the moment she realized. This wasn't accidental seduction anymore.
This wasn't flirtation. This was something far more dangerous.
Han Minseok had chosen her. And when a man like him chose, he did not unchoose.
Ewatomi did something reckless.
She went looking for him. Not by accident.
Not coincidence. Intentional. The private club was hidden behind tinted glass and quiet wealth, invitation only, influence heavy in the air. The kind of place where powerful men whispered about markets, politics, and wars no one would ever read about.
She walked in alone. Heads turned instantly. Not because she was loud, but because she didn't belong. And yet she walked like she did. The room shifted when she reached the inner lounge. He was there.
Han Minseok sat at the center of the room, not elevated, not theatrical, but unmistakably in control.
Men leaned toward him when they spoke.
No one interrupted him.
Until her heels clicked across the marble floor. His sentence stopped mid-word. His eyes lifted. Locked on her.
The temperature changed. Leave us, he said calmly.
No one argued.
Within seconds, the room emptied.
She didn't slow down.
She walked straight to him.
Close. Too close for business.
You're impossible to ignore, she said.
His jaw tightened slightly.
And yet you try.
I don't try. She tilted her head.
I test. A flicker of something dark passed through his gaze. You should not test me.
Why? She asked softly. He stood. Slow. Controlled. The movement alone shifted the air between them. Because now he was towering over her. Not touching. But near enough that her pulse began to race.
You come into my space, he said quietly, without invitation.
Her breath steadied deliberately. You came to mine first. A pause. True.
His eyes dropped briefly to her lips.
Then back up. You are pushing, he warned. And you're pulling. Silence thickened. She took one small step closer. Now her body nearly brushed his.
If you're going to watch me, she whispered, protect me, show up whenever you feel like it.
Her fingers lightly caught the front of his jacket.
Then stop pretending this isn't what it is.
His breathing changed. Barely. But she felt it.
And what is it?
He asked, voice lower now. Her throat tightened.
But she held his gaze. You want me. The words landed between them like a spark in dry air.
His eyes darkened fully now.
Dangerously. Yes. No hesitation.
No denial.
Her breath trembled at the certainty in his voice.
Then why haven't you done anything about it? That was the real question. His hand lifted slowly,
brushed a loose strand of hair away from her face. His fingers lingered just slightly longer than necessary. Because, he said quietly, once I cross that line,
I do not step back.
Her pulse thundered.
And you think I would?
The challenge in her tone snapped something thin inside him.
His hand slid from her hair to her jaw. Firm now.
Not rough, but claiming attention. You do not understand the weight of being chosen by me.
Her heart pounded.
Then make me understand.
The room felt smaller.
Air thicker.
He stepped forward. She instinctively stepped back.
Until her lower back met the edge of the table behind her.
No escape.
Not forced. But undeniable. His hands came to either side of her, bracing against the table, caging her in without touching.
He lowered his head slightly.
Close enough that she could feel his breath near her lips. If I take you into my world, he murmured, there is no casual exit.
No games. No halfway.
Heat rushed through her body.
I don't want halfway. That answer did it. His composure cracked. Not explosively, but visibly.
His hand slid from the table to her waist.
Slow.
Intentional. He pulled her closer, until their bodies aligned fully for the first time. The contact sent electricity through both of them. Her breath hitched sharply.
He felt it. His forehead rested briefly against hers. A rare moment of closeness. Of quiet.
I have spent years mastering control, he admitted in a low voice. You make me forget it.
Her fingers curled into his shirt.
Maybe you need to forget.
His jaw tightened.
You are dangerous to me.
She smiled faintly.
You're dangerous to everyone. That is different. Her heart softened unexpectedly at that.
Because this wasn't about dominance anymore. It was about vulnerability. He lifted his head. Their lips inches apart.
If I kiss you, he said quietly, this becomes real.
Her pulse roared in her ears.
It already is.
That was the final thread. He closed the distance. The kiss wasn't rushed. Wasn't wild.
It was controlled. At first.
Slow. Intent. Like he was memoizing her. Her hand slid into his hair.
That tiny action unraveled the rest of his restraint. The kiss deepened. Still clean, but consuming. Weeks of tension poured into it.
Power. Challenge. Desire. Claim.
His hand tightened slightly at her waist.
Not to hurt.
To anchor.
To confirm she was there. She didn't pull away. Didn't hesitate.
When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavier than before, the room felt altered.
Permanent. He rested his forehead against hers again.
You have no idea what you've started, he murmured. She met his gaze, steady, fearless.
Then don't stop.
A long pause. Then he stepped back slowly. Control returning, but different now.
Not cold. Focused.
You will go home, he said calmly.
Her brows lifted.
Again. Yes.
Frustration flickered across her face. He stepped closer once more, voice low.
I will not let our first night be in anger or impulse.
Her breath caught.
That's not what this was.
His thumb brushed gently across her cheek. No, he agreed. It wasn't. He exhaled slowly.
When I come to you next, he said quietly, it will be because I am certain.
Her heart fluttered. And are you not certain now? He looked at her like she was the only thing in the room.
I am becoming certain.
The honesty of that answer hit harder than anything else. He stepped away, straightened his jacket, rebuilt his composure. But his eyes had changed. Softer. Claimed.
This is no longer accidental, he said.
She nodded slowly. I know.
As she walked toward the exit, she felt his gaze follow her again. But this time it wasn't curiosity.
It was decision forming. And she knew.
The next time he showed up at her door,
He wouldn't be leaving untouched. The threat didn't come loudly.
It's beautiful.
It came strategically.
Not as beautiful
and
as
that
you.
made it more dangerous.
Ewatomi didn't notice the first warning sign, a subtle shift in the SUV outside her building. Different plates.
Same tinted windows. But Han Minseok noticed.
Because nothing moved in his city without his awareness.
Especially not around her.
Han Minseok stood in his private office, jaw tight as surveillance footage replayed on the screen. A rival syndicate.
Testing him. Circling something valuable. Ha! His phone buzzed.
They approached her cafe this afternoon, one of his men reported. Didn't touch. Just observed. That was enough.
Minseok's voice turned ice cold.
They've mistaken observation for permission. Within hours, the rival faction received a message.
Not verbal. Decisive. Clean. Final.
Because threatening Ewatomi wasn't business.
It was personal. She found out the next evening. Not from the news.
Not from gossip. From him. The knock at her door came at 9:12 p.m.
Firm. Certain.
Her heart knew before her eyes confirmed it. When she opened the door,
he wasn't calm. He wasn't composed.
It's beautiful.
He was controlled
Not
fury.
as beautiful as you.
And it was terrifyingly attractive.
You're coming with me, he said. No greeting. No explanation. Her brows furrowed.
What happened? He stepped inside, scanning the apartment quickly before facing her again. You were watched. She stilled. By who? My enemies.
A chill ran down her spine.
And they no longer exist. The quiet certainty in his voice made her swallow. You handled it. Yes. For me.
A pause. His expression shifted. Softened, just slightly.
For us.
The words settled heavily between them. She stepped closer. You're not invincible, she said quietly.
I do not need to be. His hand lifted slowly, cupping her face. I only need to ensure you are untouched. Her breath trembled. You can't fight the world forever. I can fight enough of it.
Her eyes searched his.
And what happens when protecting me costs you something?
His jaw tightened. It already has. Silence. The air thickened. Explain, she whispered. He took a breath. A rare, visible one.
I have spent years building distance between myself and weakness.
Her chest tightened. And you think I'm weakness? His thumb brushed her cheek gently.
You are the only thing that makes me hesitate.
That wasn't insult. That was confession. She placed her hand over his heart.
Then maybe hesitation isn't weakness.
His eyes held hers.
Long intense. I do not know how to love gently, he admitted. The vulnerability in his voice nearly broke her composure.
Then don't, she said softly.
Love honestly.
Something shifted in him then. Not dominance. Not control. Decision. He stepped back just enough to look at her fully.
When I choose, he said calmly, it is permanent.
Her pulse quickened.
Are you choosing?
He reached into his coat pocket. Not a ring. Not theatrics. Just a small, simple gold band.
Traditional.
Minimal. Meaningful. She blinked. What is that?
In my family, he said quietly. When a man places this on a woman's hand, he declares protection and intention.
Publicly. Her breath caught.
You're serious. I do not play with you. The room felt impossibly still. I cannot promise you a soft life, he continued.
But I can promise loyalty.
Protection. And that no one will ever stand between us again.
Her heart pounded.
You're asking me to step into your world.
No. He stepped closer.
I am stepping into yours.
That was the difference. And she felt it. Not control. Not possession. Partnership. Minseok, she whispered. He took her hand slowly. Gave her time to pull away. She didn't. He slid the band onto her finger. It fit. Too perfectly.
Like it had been waiting.
This is not ownership, he said quietly.
This is alignment. Tears stung her eyes unexpectedly. You showed up at my door for a drink, she whispered. A faint smile touched his lips. And I never left. She stepped into him fully now. No hesitation. Her arms wrapping around his neck. His hands settling firmly at her waist. No more distance. No more restraint. Their kiss this time wasn't testing. Wasn't tension.
It was certainty. Deep. Steady. Chosen.
When they pulled apart, his forehead rested against hers again. "You were never an accident," he murmured. "You were inevitable.
She smiled softly.
And you were never just danger."
He raised an eyebrow slightly. "What was I?" She traced her finger lightly down his chest.
"Mine."
For the first time since she met him. Han Minseok laughed. Low. Warm. Human. Outside, the rain began again. But inside, there was no storm left to fight. He had chosen. She had chosen. And when a man like Han Minseok chooses love, he does not unchoose. Ever.